You guys remember just a few days ago, the White House recruited a bunch of TikTokers, a bunch of celebrities on social media, people on TikTok who have a large following, and they brought them to a meeting. And they gave them the opportunity to ask some questions, which is a nice way of saying they were propagandized, because these people, ostensibly have no knowledge whatsoever about politics, but they do have a large following. And so obviously, if you feed them the right information, that can turn into a very powerful tool for the White House. Again, this was reported first by the Washington Post. This was the article. The White House is briefing TikTok stars about the war in Ukraine. Yeah, so again, I don't need to tell you that if this was in another country, the headline would look like this: Russian TikTok influencers are being paid to spread Kremlin propaganda. Yep. So again, in the US, it's a briefing by the White House, right? It was a little get together, ask a few questions, right? And in Russia or Iran or whatever country, whatever evil country you want to pick from the axis of evil, it would be a different headline, right? It's the regime is re-educating online stars with propaganda. So completely different tone, of course, because the US could never be a regime. That's only for evil countries. And just to jog your memory, I want to show you one of these videos, what the result of that is. So these people, these very popular guys on TikTok, they went home and made videos about their meeting. So just to give you an idea what kind of results that yields, take a look.
Here are the 3 most important bits of the White House briefing that me and a bunch of other creators just attended. First, if Russia uses chemical, biological, or nuclear weapons in Ukraine, the United States will take escalatory steps. We don't know exactly what that means, but it won't be good for Russia. Second, Russian troops are not happy with their own invasion, and it's really impacting Russia's ability to make progress in this war. Third, Russia is not going to win in Ukraine. Things have gone so badly for them that it's just not possible anymore.
Did you see the look on his face? It's like a hostage video. It looks like he's being held hostage. The war is going very poorly for the Ruskies. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Anyway, I showed you that clip already. I found another one though. So there was, I was waiting for the clip from this one. I think they mentioned her right at the bottom of the article. I think it's the same person, Ellie Zeiler. Yeah, it is. So this clip just came out, and she was at this meeting as well. And if you thought what I just showed you was bad, wait till you see this. Everybody, fasten your cringe seatbelts. It's about to go down.
Why is gas so expensive, and why is the United States inflation rate at a 4-time decade high? I had the opportunity to ask the White House why gas down the street is $7, and here's what they said. The obvious reason: we are getting out of a 2-year pandemic. When use goes up, price goes up. But the call was predominantly about Ukraine and Russia, so how does that relate? Russia is one of the top 3 producers of oil, and it is actually their #1 revenue source. Now, with Putin starting this horrific fight between Ukraine and Russia, nobody wants to work with him and do an international trade. So with people being scared of war and limited resources, prices are bound to go up as well. For the people who can't pay $7 for a gallon of gas, there's an app called Gas Buddy that shows you the cheapest gas near you, as well as a link in my bio to donate to the misplaced refugees of Ukraine. Why is gas...
Oh God. Again, I believe some of you might call this viewer abuse. I'm sorry I subjected you to that torment. God, that was terrible. Why is gas like $17? I don't know. Oh my God, that was really bad. It's as bad as you thought it was going to be, isn't it? Oh boy, I think that really tops it. Christ. This is her, her TikTok CIA application. They're really, I think they've reached the bottom of the barrel in terms of propaganda. They have to go so low now. They're outsourcing it to TikTokers. You know the situation is bad. You know they're having trouble right now. In the past they could use the New York Times. Now they're struggling. They got to go to TikTok. My goodness, where do we begin with this one? Well, hello there, Barbie. Let's dissect what you were saying. So, I mean, she's talking about how gas was, it's more expensive because of the pandemic. Yeah, okay, there's only so much you can blame on the pandemic before we start seeing through the nonsense. Why don't you want to discuss perhaps price gouging? You know, the people who work in the oil industry are not exactly the most angelic of individuals, right? That you know, that's something that's been happening already for months in Europe and the US. You've had an energy crisis, so yes, let's be fair. It's not just because of the war, but that has been happening, and no, it's not just because of the pandemic. There's an interesting phrase called price gouging, which plays a large, significant part. Again, afterwards, what does she say after that? Goodness, I don't want to hear it again.
$7, and here's what they said.
I love she's like, and here's what they said. Like, I'm just going to tell you what they said because that's the truth, and that's the way it goes.
The obvious reason we're getting out of a 2-year pandemic, when use goes up, price goes up. But the call was predominantly about Ukraine and Russia, so how does that relate? Russia is one of the top 3 producers of oil, and it is actually...
She's like someone who showed up to a presentation where they haven't prepared anything and they just hate their life. Like, Russia is one of the top one of the toppest producers of oil in the world. It has made 5 million. It's so bad. Oh my lord.
Actually, their number 1 revenue source. Now, with Putin starting this horrific fight between Ukraine and Russia, nobody wants to work with him and do an international trade.
Nobody wants to work with him. You know, there's a class project and no one wants to team up with him. What a nice way of saying sanctions. No one wants to work with him. He has bad breath, you know. Oh, goodness. This is horrific. Of course, I don't need to state the obvious. There's no mention whatsoever in any of these videos, and I'm not going to play them again to abuse you like that. But there's not one mention in any of these videos of the U.S. sanctions, right? And the fact that they have had a domino effect in raising the price. Now, of course, like we were saying, there's already a rise in energy prices in Europe and the United States before this war in Ukraine. But you can't come here as a rational, sane adult and look at the price of crude and look at the price of British gas and tell me that it didn't skyrocket after the U.S. announced it's going to ban Russian oil. You are a lunatic if you say such a thing. It's very obvious that made it much worse. And they don't want to tell you that, of course, because you are paying the price for that. People are asking, why are we paying, so much for gas at the pump? And they can't tell you that, well, it's because we put sanctions on Russia banning the oil, which made what was already a bad situation even worse. They can't tell you that. They're never going to tell you that because this is one of the only times that people in the West are actually feeling what sanctions, the effect of sanctions and what sanctions do. Usually when the United States puts sanctions on another country, like Syria or Venezuela, people in the West have no clue what's happening in Syria and Venezuela. They can't tell their ass from their elbow, not through their own fault, but because the media keeps people in the West uninformed. That's the whole point. They don't want you to know. So that, but now with Russia, being that Russia is one of the world's top oil producers, and the fact that it supplies a lot of gas to Europe, and of course, 3% to the US doesn't seem like a lot, but that's millions of barrels. This is causing a shock in oil prices, and they're going up. And that's a fact. They're going up much more than they were. The prices are much higher than they were before, and people are not happy about that. They're very upset. I want to show you this. I want to show you this video that someone put out as a kind of parody in response to the Barbie that I just showed you. Let's take a look.
Why is gas so expensive, and why is the United States inflation rate at a 4-time decade high? I had the opportunity to be propagandized by the White House and asked them why gas down the street is $7. And here's what they should have said. The obvious reason: the Biden administration has implemented policies that curb oil production in the US. So when Biden's regulation goes up, oil production goes down. But since we're doing this game...
Oh goodness. Oh wow. So I see where they're coming from. They're basically saying, man, we should be fucking up that environment, yo. Come on, let's get fracking, boys. Why did you stop the Keystone XL pipeline? Let's go. Screw those natives. Oil, baby. God, that's a really interesting take on what sanctions do. Well done. Well done, you absolute clown. Oh, that's great.
Where we blame Putin and Russia, I asked, how does that relate? Since Russia is one of the top oil producers and the US doesn't want to be energy independent, we have to import oil from Russia. Now, since Putin has started this war between Ukraine and Russia, people who aren't morons realize we shouldn't be relying on foreign dictators.
Oh, I agree. You shouldn't be. So why are you getting all your oil from Saudi Arabia? Huh? You clever dick. I bet she didn't mention that, right? She didn't mention that dictator because he's a good dictator. He's a U.S. friend. Mohammed bin Salman, he's the good kind of dictator, right? They're so interesting. They're really interesting. Oh, that's great. You get 3% of your oil from Russia. 3%. What chunk of your oil comes from Saudi Arabia? Huh? I can tell you it's much more than 3%. Oh, they're not going to criticize the Saudis, though. Genocide in Yemen, who gives a shit about that? Those brown people. But those Ukrainians, oh no, that's heartbreaking. Now you cross the line. Now we put our foot down. So, MBS is the right kind of dictator. He's okay. He's all right.
Oil from Russia. Now, since Putin has started this war between Ukraine and Russia, people who aren't morons realize we shouldn't be relying on foreign dictators. So, with people being scared of war and limited resources, prices are going up because we rely on foreign dictators instead of ourselves. For people who can't pay $7 for a gallon of gas, there's an app called Stop Being Fucking Dictators instead of ourselves. For people who can't pay $7 for a gallon of gas, there's an app called Stop Being Fucking Poor and Buy a Tesla, as well as a link in my bio to donate to TikTokers who are in desperate need of a quality education.
Okay, the last joke was funny. The last joke was funny about how they're basically telling you, oh, you're poor, just go download this app and screw you for being poor. That's of course making a mockery. The Barbie girl when she's saying that. I mean, they're so out of touch. They don't realize that people cannot afford gas. That screws their work, and it's domino effect. But again, this whole point that the U.S. relies too much on foreign dictators, and that's they're being mean to us and won't give us their oil. Russia didn't ban oil exports to the U.S. You banned the import of Russian oil, not the other way around. Hold on, give me a second. I want to show you here. Do you know how much oil of U.S. oil comes from Saudi Arabia? So the majority is from Canada. That's 61%, right? These figures are from the U.S. government, from the U.S. Energy Information Administration, but they're from 2020. But again, they give us a fairly rough idea. 52% is Canada, okay? 11% is Mexico, 7% is Russia, 7% Saudi Arabia. So this has changed to 3%. Because, again, these figures are from 2020. The current figure is 3%. Saudi Arabia is either equal or more in terms of U.S. oil imports. And very obviously, they don't have a problem with that. Besides that, are they saying Mexico and Canada are dictatorships? Is that, your key U.S. allies, they're dictatorships now? Again, this makes absolutely no sense. It's such an easy way to, shirk off the effect of U.S. sanctions because you're finally feeling them at home and you can't admit that they ruin lives. And who pays for that gas? It's not Joe Biden. It's you, the civilians, the citizens. You are paying the price of the sanctions just like people otherwise usually pay that price. So unfortunately, even when we have rebuttals, we have some sort of a response like this one to the Barbie one, it's still propagandized and it's still rather ignorant because it's encouraging more fracking essentially. And again, Biden actually hasn't banned fracking, but in terms of the moratorium, there was a moratorium on drilling and the Keystone Pipeline. That's also what they're referring to. And you have a lot of people saying that the U.S. should now frack more and focus more on extracting petroleum. And even the White House on their official Twitter account, I showed you the tweet. They were bragging how they're producing more millions of barrels per day. I mean, this is really great for the environment. Well done, guys. Really, great job. Great job. You're very smart. The cringe is really bad. And I think what I've just shown you is kind of a textbook example of how in the United States, regrettably, very regrettably, and this is also true of the West, you have a selection between a shit sandwich and a diarrhea sandwich. So you can have the right wing and then the right wing light. That's really it. None of this explains what's happening. None of this has anything to do with reality. It's completely out of touch, regardless which one you ask. And so that's quite disappointing, isn't it? It's quite disappointing. Man, the cringe is something else. I mean, they're really funny. They're really funny. They're really funny, the White House doing this. And speaking of which, speaking of TikTok, as I said, people have been posting my videos and without even putting my name, which, which kind of sucks. And they've been going viral. I didn't know this. You guys told me in the comments below. And turns out like they've been getting millions of views just in the last weeks. So as a result, I've made my own TikTok. You guys kept nagging me to do this. Don't worry, there won't be any weird dances. There'll just be some good old propaganda for you. Independent propaganda funded by my Patreon and subscribers, who are obviously all of you. You're just various accounts impersonating, covering for Bashar al-Assad and Maduro and so on, right? So in any case, I made a TikTok. If you want to subscribe, I haven't posted anything yet. I'm going to figure out how to run this in tandem with my work, obviously. So this is the thing if you want to subscribe. Oh, some of you already followed. I told you a few minutes ago, right? So the handle is Richard Medhurst. It's at Richard Medhurst. Don't worry. You won't ever see White House propaganda from me. Rest assured.